Welcome to Money 911, where we unveil the secrets to financial empowerment and entrepreneurial excellence. I'm thrilled to be your host, Kris Miller, and today we're embarking on a journey of profound inspiration with a man who epitomizes resilience and triumph, none other than Mike Abramowitz. His story is not just about overcoming obstacles. It's about harnessing personal adversity to fuel remarkable business success. So, dear listeners, get ready to be captivated by insights that will ignite your spirit and propel you towards your own path of greatness. All right, Mike. It's really nice to have you here, and I'm excited to talk to you about everything.
Yeah,
Your
thanks for having me, Kris.
Absolutely. Your journey from personal advisory, right, business to triumph is truly remarkable, I think. And maybe you could share like a pivotal moment where you realized the power of, being resilient and how that shapes your path.
Sure, it's a loaded question. I'll answer it with just taking you through the origin of where I started, and then we can camp and park or wherever makes sense. But I grew up in New Jersey, youngest of eight. Watched my dad own a plumbing business my whole life, and he missed a lot of basketball games growing up, but he was really ambitious, hardworking, and so when I set out to move to college to study pursue my engineering degree, I started selling Cutco kitchen knives for vector marketing to pay my way through school. And my whole ethos was I'm going to work and grind really hard now. So that way, when I'm married and have a family, I'll have a little bit more free time than dad was able to have. So that way I could spend more time and be an intentional dad and husband. So I was just trying to get ahead. Like at 20, I bought my first house. At 21, with mom's life insurance, unfortunately, she passed early in life. I bought a second condo and then a third house before I graduated college. So I had three rental properties when I graduated college with my engineering degree. I advanced into management and senior leadership within that direct sales company with Vector and Marketing and Cutco to teach other students how to do what I did as a college kid. So I went into management. Things are good until it wasn't because the market collapsed 2008, 2009. I lost the properties. I was negative 130,000 in debt. I had a 400 credit score. I had a relationship I was in that ended after 7 years. I had unhealthy eating habits. I didn't want to get off the couch. So I call it the valley of my 20s. So everything that I did to kind of set a strong foundation was pretty much swooped and taken away from me. So I just had to work and grind and chose to just like people say I had a 9 to 5. I didn't have a 9 to 5. I had a 24/7. So I was married to the business, worked a ton, making 50 to 75,000 a year just to try to work my way out of this hole to get back to where I was. But it was compromising a lot of other parts of my life. So circa 2012, I went to my first Tony Robbins conference and walked across fire. I'm now a 7-time fire walker. And he said at that conference that my mess is my message. So essentially, I reframed everything that happened in my 20s and turned it into what I wanted to create as a message. So I spent the next year um, speaking in the Pinellas County School District, just crafting what that message is. So I spent about 300 hours, spoke to about 20 or 30,000 students, and that turned into my first book, Grab Tomorrow, Your Best Year Ever. And that was really great. It turned into 9 books. I built a nonprofit on the back end of that where we provided over 100,000 meals to the less fortunate through PB&J for Tampa Bay. But the challenge was now is I had my direct sales business that was working, and then I was doing like speaking and book signing and writing. I still didn't have much time for a relationship. So when I met my now wife, we started dating in 2014. I made a promise. I'm like, I'll get myself out of this. So I hired my first business coach, and that business coach was in 2016, and he had experience in corporate in India scaling a company from 6 million to 30 million with a team of 1,400 underneath him. And he left that to come back to the States to train and teach small business owners how to corporatize their small business. And I was one of his students. So he helped me install systems into my direct sales business so I could buy back time. And that essentially led me into a place where I could remove myself from the business. When my son was born, he was born premature on New Year's Eve of 2020. and he was weighing 1 pound 4 ounces, and we were in the NICU with him for 8.5 months. And during that time frame, my business was able to run without me there and still produce six figures in revenue and profits. So when my wife became a full-time medical mom and we got out of the hospital September 10th of 2021, I called my coach and I said, do you think we could teach other business owners how to do what I did with my business to remove myself and have it run but without me? And he said, let's find out. So that was the birthplace of what I do now with Better Than Rich, which we've now trained and coached and helped of hundreds of business owners buy back time, installing systems and delegation and predictability in their businesses so they could spend time on what matters most to them. And it's not, for them being in a hospital, but if like they want to go on a vacation without a cell phone, or if they wanted to, go to their kid's basketball game, we at least can create predictability in their businesses. So a very long story to help the listener and for you to kind of have the context of why I'm doing what I'm doing is based on just my life experiences and circumstances, to where I'm at now and in my late 30s. So it's been quite the journey, and from that journey has been tons of different lessons. So we can go in any direction you choose that would be most of value. But that's the origin of where I'm at right now.
Great. As someone has trained thousands of sales reps, right, and have authored a few self-help books, what's one piece of advice that you received really like earlier in your journey?
I would say one piece of advice, only one. So, I would say the seasons of business and the seasons of life are really important, and
Mm,
each season deserves its own strategy. So, for example, I'm in a fall season of life right now. The fall season is I'm reaping the rewards of all the seeds that were planted in spring. So, during a fall season of reaping the rewards, what am I doing during the season? I'm enjoying the moments as much as possible. I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. I am also strategizing a little bit about what are the next types of seeds that I want to plant for next year's harvest. I am collecting my resources and organizing my resources, specifically dollars, so that way, if the winter unpredictable season comes when it's unannounced, I could be prepared for that. So that's kind of this fall season I'm in right now of strategy, of intrinsic thinking, of reaping the rewards of the hard work. And then winter is the unpredictable season that comes. And there's three strategies for winter. There's A, shovel the snow as it's coming down and tire myself out. B, grab a sled and some skis and enjoy it as much as possible. Or C, which is nuzzle up next to the fireplace and have a minimum viable product that I can do with the least amount. So that way I could have the least amount of consequences on the other end of the season of unpredictability. So when spring happens, and spring always follows winter, I could have the energy and the drive and the resources and resourcefulness to be able to intentionally plant the seeds that are needed for spring. So then spring season, what's the strategy there is make sure I figure out what are the fruits I want to bear in the fall. If I'm planting orange seeds in the spring, I'm going to get oranges in the fall. So if I'm planting seeds in the spring, I want to be intentional. What are the types of seeds I want to plant? What type of fruits do I want to bear? Meaning, if I want to run a business that doesn't involve me, I got to make sure I'm planting seeds and setting up systems in my business where I'm not needed in the fall season because I set up an infrastructure in spring that doesn't rely and depend on me. For example, I built one of my businesses where my phone number was the point of contact for everyone. So if I built a business where my clients, my talent, and future talent all had my phone number, and I'm the bottleneck for all the decision making now, when I get to fall, and great, I built this business, but I'm still the bottleneck. I planted pretty terrible seeds for something in the future. So season of spring, planting the right seeds, and then summer, the season of grind, the season of work, the season of fall, watering the seeds and tending that garden. That's a lot of like doing the sales and doing the marketing and doing the fulfillment. It's a lot of the grind work and doing a lot of the hiring and putting things in place. And I think too often myself and business owners might attest that they get stuck in some summer season, and they go summer, and then winter, the unpredictable season of winter comes in. Then they react to the circumstance of winter. They go right back to grind of summer, go into the circumstances of winter. They never give themselves a chance to work on the business in fall and making sure they're taking a step back from the business in spring to make sure they're planting the right seeds. So that's been really serving for me, and that's what's helped me be able to navigate the different seasons of life and also the seasons of business.
That's a great, really great parable to talk about. Of all to everything, there's a season, and that really makes it clear and how to run and roll with the business. And your commitment to freedom is inspiring, and you're getting my ear too, because I'm the bottleneck too. So maybe walk us through a specific strategy or even mindset shift that helped you transform from being busy to being truly productive.
So the first, I walk through this on a delegation planning session with anybody, and I could give that as a gift to your listener if it would be helpful. But step number one is to do hourly wage audit. So I would first ask you, Kris, I would say, all right, what is your average dollar? What is your dollar per hour worth? And we would do an exercise, and I would say, how much do you want to make in a year? And let's say you want to make $300,000 for the year. It's like, cool. How many hours a week do you want to work for 300 grand? Let's say I want to work 40 hours a week. Great. How many weeks a year do you want to work? Or how many weeks do you want to take off? I want to take 4 weeks off. Great. So you take 40 hours times 48 weeks. That's 1,920 hours. Take $300,000 divided by 1,920. Now you have a dollar per hour. Dollar per hour there is about $150 to $160 per hour. So now we have a range, an idea of what your time is worth. Once we have an idea of what time is worth, then step number two, what are all the tasks that are below that wage, that are energy drainers, that are distractions, that put me into reaction mode, that I constantly find myself doing, that is a distraction from my main focus and the main outcomes that I need to spend my time on? Or B, what are the tasks that are not getting done, that if they were getting done, they would create an environment for me to live in my genius where I could spend time in $150 to $160 per hour tasks? So it'd be step number two. Then step number three is, once we figure out all the tasks that we could offload, number three is we want to figure out, great, what are you doing with that time that you just bought back? So if you spend dollars to pay someone else to take care of those tasks, well, you don't want to just go make a sandwich. You want to make sure you're spending and reinvesting those hours on high value activities. So we would get clear of what are some of those focuses. What is it? Strategy? Is it strategic partnership? Is it growing the brand? Is it adding another pillar to your company? Is it to reevaluate your offerings? Whatever it might be, we would get very clear of what is that focus. And then we would say, what are the action steps on delegating those tasks, and what is the accountability that you need for that focus, and then putting those into place where in the next 90 days you can have you could have a full delegation plan to buy back your time from those low bottom 20% tasks, so that way you could focus your energy and your time on what matters most to you, and to help you have the business success. So a lot of those low value tasks, Kris, oftentimes are, think about it, inbox management, getting out of our email, social
That's
media.
it right there.
All right. Social media, right? Posting content, commenting on other people's posts, also managing our social media inboxes as well. How do we install humans that understand AI, that can respond and act as me, for me, just not by me? That's what we have. That's the connection there. As far as like graphic images, how do we create predictability using AI, where I can go to my VA and say, I could go to ChatGPT and say, I just was a guest on this podcast. Create a transcription of the summary. Here's the transcription of what I spoke about. Create a summary. Here's a summary. I would like to turn that summary into a graphic image, along with a Facebook post, a LinkedIn post, a blog, and I'd like you to write it in this tone for this avatar that represents my brand ethos. And we have all of that connected. Boom. All right, VA, here's a bunch of stuff for you now to do. So that's a way to offload that. I offload a lot of tasks in that regard. Hey, VA team, I want to get on a bunch of different podcasts. Can you help me get on those shows? These are the shows I'd like to get on. I'd like for you to reach out to them on my behalf. Use AI to curate an authentic message that I might say. So reach out to those hosts and see if they'd like to have me as a guest in their shows so I could add value to their audience. I'm now on this. This is, I think, number 70 that I've been a guest on since September. And now it's April. So, these are ideas of building a business that can be predictable, but then having a team of AI powered delegation and virtual assistants that could support the environment where some of these things can take place. I could keep riffing on this. I don't want to
Yeah,
get too far
yeah.
into the weeds,
Oh,
but
that's
there's
great.
so
Yeah,
much here.
that's wonderful. It sounds, you got my ear. What another thing I'm really interested in is your founding of PB&J for Tampa Bay, and it's a testament of your commitment to giving back. So how has philanthropy and played a role in shaping your perspective of success and fulfillment?
So, I mean, we're going back to when I made my bar mitzvah when I was 13 years old and, did my mitzvah, it
Right,
was,
right, your big one.
yeah, we painted a shed, it was the shed at the back of a synagogue, my dad and I, and then there was also, helping this homeless man who had no pants and taking him to, a Goodwill and getting him pants. And it was just something that I did for my mitzvah project that was, back when I was like 12 or 13 years old. But then, that I've seen my parents do acts of kindness my whole life. My mom opened up our house when, our siblings had, I'm the youngest of eight. So every sibling before me had like a friend with a broken home. And
Mm.
my mom and dad would invite them into our house and they would extend stay with us at certain periods of time. And we always had a bunch of pets living in our house. So it was just a very open door policy. But the start of PB&J for Tampa Bay came circa 2015, February 2015. One of my sales reps on my direct sales team broke up. Him and his girlfriend broke up. He was all like pouting around the office. And I'm like, dude, what's wrong? He's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. My girlfriend, this and that. I'm like, dude, we got to get you off self and on purpose. Like, what's something that you could do to help have perspective that, hey, this is not the end of the world. And there's obviously bigger problems out there. So we started brainstorming and it's like, maybe we raise money for, a charity or cause. Maybe we can go do a canned food drive. Maybe we can make sandwiches and give them out to people that are under bridges. He's like, let's do that one. I was like, all right, what type of sandwiches? He said peanut butter and jelly. I was like, all right, cool. So we got a couple other sales reps, reached out to our clients for Cutco and was like, raised up supplies and donations in cash. We set up a date on a Sunday morning. We raised up and we all came out, made a bunch of sandwiches, and we made 350 sandwiches, went to a local shelter, passed them out to the attendees there, and everyone was like, we should do this again. So we did it the next month in March and we did 500 sandwiches. Then we did it every single month there on out, making these peanut and jelly sandwiches. And then more volunteers came out. And then we did 8,000 sandwiches that year. And then we had the Channel 10 News pick up the story. And then another press release came out. And then another news station picked up the story. So we grew and grew and grew and grew. And then when I was in the hospital with my son, Tyler Condon took over for me, and now he's the current operator of PB&J for Tampa Bay. We've had thousands of volunteers come through. 100,000 meals later, we're probably approaching 150,000 now under Tyler's leadership, and it's been pretty wild to see what one sandwich at a time could do for the community, but also for the members of that community.
That's so good. It's all about the give back. I mean, that quantums everything because it creates the full cycle, right? So
Hmm.
that's really cool. A lot of entrepreneurs are struggling trying to scale their business and without sacrificing personal life. And that's kind of your theme. You've managed to achieve, financial success and time and freedom to be with your family and all those good things. So there's a little trick to that, right?
Well, I mean, for context, I mentioned I'm in a fall season. Last year, 2023, I had 9 full weeks off without technology or phone. That included
Oh,
a 3-week road trip. That included two front row dad retreats that I went to. That included a Disney cruise and also a trip to Disney World. Like so 9 weeks there, and then still was able to have every weekend off, every evening off, every morning off, and personal day on Mondays. So my business hours 9 to 4 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 to 2 on Fridays. So everything happens inside the business during those hours, and then everything outside of those hours are working either on the business or spending time with myself or those relationships that are important to my to important to me. So creating those boundaries was really important. And then it hasn't compromised business. Last year I was able to still save over six figures, and due to having a business buy back my time, and then the money from that business reinvested into passive investment streams. So my money makes me more money. My business buys me back time. So that way I could have 3x freedom of time, money, and location freedom. And coming from full circle, where 10 years ago I was negative $130,000 in debt, to being an accredited investor and building that machine, it has taken intentionality, it has taken some learnings and lessons. And I also invest 10% of my income each year into personal growth and self-development, mastermind groups, constantly learning. I have a somatic breath coach that I work with. So it's like continuing to challenge myself as a human and as a leader while surrounding myself around other really what I would deem successful humans. So my circle of influence, the leadership around me, my business coach, my health coach, my breath coach, like these are people that are important. So it's a loaded question because it's not something that it's like, this is the magic pill, but the framework is boundaries is number one. So it's 6 items. Number one is boundaries. Then number two is communication guidelines. How do I want people to communicate with me? What deems an email? What deems a text? What deems a voice memo? What deems a live call? What deems a hopping on a live meeting for Zoom? So it's like having the guidelines of parameters of how people get my attention is important. Then number three is systems. What are all the if-then scenarios for attract, convert, onboard, and retain for my talent and client journeys in my business? Then it's my playbooks, which is number four. What are the SOPs, the standard operating procedures? What is all the documentation of those if-thens? Number five is team. Who are the who's that's going to execute those playbooks? And then number six is the technology, AI, CRMs, using project management softwares, those types of technologies that support those team and those who's to be able to execute those plays that are inside those systems. So that way it honors my communication guidelines and protects those boundaries. And it all works in what I call the time-rich six.
Mm, that's great. So in your community, you talk about automate, delegate, systematize, and you emphasize the importance of implementing these systems in your growth. So share just a personal place where you've put this system in place and what the breakthrough was for your own ventures with that.
Make sure I want to make sure I understand the question or clarify, and because there's so many different directions. So I probably installed 100+ systems into my life and my business. So if
Mhm.
there's because the way I define a system is a series of processes, policies, and technologies that aid in the goal. So that's how I define a system. So when the question is asked, where have I put in a system? I put in a system of processes, policies, technologies that aid in the goal 100+ times. So if
Mhm.
there's any specific,
Okay, all
I
right. Well,
would
you're
love to.
really into it. Okay, well, what about email? Everybody's done, gone with their email. They just have no life. But just to go through the email every day and process that, and it's hard to give it to somebody else that doesn't know what you know. So how do you
So
systemize that?
So how I systemize my inbox. So first off, there's two different types of emails, right, that come in. There's an outbound email and there's an inbound email. So what I did is I said, these are all the different outbound emails that I need to have some sort of predictability to. Follow-ups, like follow-up emails that like after I finish a conversation, or recap emails that need to be sent out, or affiliate partnership emails that need to be sent out. So there's outgoing emails, newsletters to our community, podcast pitch emails, like these types of emails that need to get sent out. That's outbound emails. And then there's the inbound emails. What are the types of emails that are coming into me, inviting me on to podcast host, responses to those outbound emails, referrals or client introductions, requests from current clients, requests from prospects, right? So there's all these different types of emails, all these different types of scenarios that fall under outbound, that fall under inbound. So what I want to do is I want to try to premeditate as many of those as possible, with as many of those scenarios as possible, with some sort of template or playbook. So that way, whoever's managing my inbox can say, if this type of email needs to get sent, click here. This is how to send that email. If this type of email comes in, this is how to respond to those emails. So those are my like most predictable ones. Then as new emails need to come in and as new emails are going out, I have them ask me questions. They send me a screenshot of the email, they send it to me on Slack, and they say, how would you respond to this? Every time they do that with something that they don't know how to respond to, they're now adding to those playbooks that I started. So I did the first 10% with the most predictable ones. Now they're building out that middle 80% as they're managing it for me. I'm still technically managing it, but I don't have to actually go into the platform. I'm just having the conversation on Slack during my business hours. And if they don't know how to answer it, they're instructed to say, respond with, hey, Susie, I got to this email before Mike. I want to let you know I don't have the answer right now. I'm actually messaging him. His business hours are between 9 and 4, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 9 to 2. He will get back to me as soon as possible. And then as soon as he does, I'll make sure that he responds to you. If it is something that they know how to handle, then they'll say, hey, I got to this before Mike. I have the resource that you're requesting, or here's the link to book the appointment. I have that information. If you need anything specific from Mike, let me know. I'll direct that to him. But for now, I answered the questions that you needed. So like that. And by the way, they're using my tone and writing style from AI to respond to those emails so they sound like me. So even though she's signing it from Anna, Mike's virtual assistant, it still sounds like it's me because she's using AI in my writing style. So I hope that's like the if-thens on how it's managed. And then inside the actual Gmail account that's being used, there's a lot of labels that we use and organization like that as well. So
Oh, cool. Wow, Mike, finally, you got so much value here. It's like a waterfall, but just to take a little bit of it. What is one message that you hope the listeners can take away and ignite their journey and unleash their potential and achieve remarkable success? What would you tell everybody?
everything in life and business is a choice, and we choose our priorities and we also choose our distractions. And frankly, if you are a high earning business owner that's crushing it in the outside world with achievement, but you're feeling spread thin on time, that's a choice. And you could recover from that as soon as you choose to do so. And if you are equipped on how to create business success, you're also equipped to create predictable systems to buy back your time so you can reinvest that time on what matters most to you, whether that's your faith or your family or contribution to your community, your fun, your fitness. It's a choice. And ultimately you are in charge of making those choices, and there's no victims. We're not a victim of our circumstance. Choose your way out of it. And if I can help, go to betterthanrich.com/90-day plan. That's 90-day plan. It'll go directly to my calendar. I'll have a 30-minute to 40-minute conversation with you on helping you offload what are those tasks. And I have a time audit workbook. It's about 25 pages. I'll gift you as well. And that way you could take control back. And if it makes sense for our services, like we have a virtual assistant services, my whole team, we have about 35 to 40 individuals that work for us. They will be installed into your business to do for me whatever they do for me, they could do for you. And if that's something that could be helpful, where you're like, oh my God, I don't want to build out all this stuff. Great. Let my team just do it for you. That's one of the services that we provide. So if that could be helpful, I'd love to offer that too.
Sounds really helpful, Mike. This has been you got my attention. I hope everybody reaches out to connect with you. And it's been a pleasure and honor to have you here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Kris.
As we conclude our conversation with the remarkable Mike Abramowitz, I'm reminded of the boundless potential that resides within each of us, waiting to be unleashed. Mike's journey from adversity to triumph serves as a beacon of hope, proving that no challenge is unsurmountable and no dream too big to achieve. So, dear listeners, as you reflect on the wisdom shared today, remember that your journey towards success is not defined by the obstacles you face, but by the courage with which you confront them. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep striving, and keep unleashing your full potential. This is Kris Miller, signing off with renewed inspiration and gratitude. There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithchrismeller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.